then doing fertility, you sort of understand it's a whole nother world. So, 1 in 6 couples in Australia experience infertility. And we all know as we're getting older, it's only getting more and more because, it's obviously more difficult to have babies as you get older. So that was a big learning curve, but I absolutely fell in love with it. I think every single person that wants a baby deserves the opportunity to be a parent.
Hi everyone and welcome back to No Place Like Home. My name's Larissa and I'm here with Jess.
Hello.
And we are also here today with the beautiful Narelle. Hi Narelle.
Hello, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Tell us a bit about yourself, Narelle, qualifications, training.
So I am a registered nurse and a registered midwife. So I've been a nurse since 2005, so quite a long time. And I did my postgraduate in midwifery in 2011.
Right.
So I'm feeling pretty old.
No, not at all. Not at all. Where are you working at the moment? Where have you worked?
So I started out at the Royal Children's Hospital. So that was always my dream. I wanted to be a paediatric nurse. I loved kids. So that was the old hospital before the new Brisbane hospital was. One. Yeah, that was a big hole when I left, being built. So that was amazing. I loved my time there. I worked on the adolescent ward in theatre and the neuro ward. An orthopaedic ward, so that was amazing. Kids are fantastic. They're resilient. They bounce back. They're happy. A lot of people would think it's a sad place to work, but kids aren't sad. They bounce back. They don't play the sick people role. So absolutely love that. But I got the bug and I just wanted to travel. So, so after that, I applied for lots of things. One of the things I applied for was actually as a paediatric nurse in Dubai. And that was for the King of Dubai. So that was an interview. I went over there, didn't actually have the job in the end. I was 23 or 24. I'm quite naive probably. But my interview was being flown over there to the palace.
Wow.
Got given a heap of dirham.
Me.
So they had a team of nannies for, I think it was his 4th wife and their 2 kids. And we just wanted some paediatric nurses. So that didn't work out, but I thought, no, I just want to travel. So I did the UK thing. So I went to the UK and actually nannied for 3 beautiful children down in Surrey. One of their little girls had Down syndrome, so they were pretty special. I'm still in contact now. And then once my visa was up for there, I went to Hong Kong and nannied in Hong Kong.
Wow.
So I was there for a couple of years. So, and then I was busting to do my midwifery by that stage. So I went and did my mid over in Perth.
I was going to say, did you do that in the UK or did you come back to Australia?
No, I went back to so it was a year post-grad, so I came back to Perth. I went to Perth and did that and absolutely fell in love with it. And ever since, I think how lucky I'm in the best job in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, amazing. Yeah. And you were saying before that you go to and from New South Wales?
So I actually live in New South Wales at the moment, just over the border. So fell in love with a farmer. So I was...
Farmer wants a
wife. Without being on TV. Yep. So that's where I am at the moment. I was in Melbourne before that. So,
right.
Yeah. So before that I was... so since becoming a midwife, I was in Perth and I was very lucky. Someone pulled out at the last minute. There was a position in Tanzania that was supported by the Western Australian government. So I went over there as a midwifery educator. I was obviously a very junior midwife, but I went with the most incredible, amazing senior midwives who taught me a lot, and I fell in love with it. So I've been back every year since bar COVID. So I fell in love with Tanzania, so I ended up helping run those courses. And so with that, there was a partnership between the Western Australian government and the Tanzanian government. And so what we would do then is they had classrooms for the midwives within the bigger hospitals. And then so we'd teach them and then work alongside them.
Amazing.
Yeah, absolutely fell in love with it. And from there... I then became involved with Kangaroo Mother Care and that sort of evolved, and so I've been doing that. I handed that over, but we did that from 2012 to 2022.
What is Kangaroo Mother Care?
So it's when I was over there in Tanzania, some of the Tanzanian midwives said to me, "I'll come and have a look at our ward, we need some help." So it'd been set up by one of the really big international aids. So Kangaroo Mother Care is it's a concept that's been around for years, and it's just the skin to skin, the benefits of, you know, having your baby skin to skin on your chest. In the 70s, it really became a thing, that we can see the benefits of that. And there's a lot of scientific research around it. It stabilises babies' breathing and heart rate. Obviously, it keeps them nice and warm, so it prevents that hypothermia. They're on the mum, so they're not at risk of infection by being out there with other unwell babies. And for bonding and for weight gain, obviously to produce milk, mums need to be stimulated. So traditionally, in developing countries, or a lot of them, the mums and babies are separated. So babies are in they're in a nursery, and so mum might visit them a couple of times a day. So these wards that we have, or that they started, have the mums and the babies together for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Good.
And often these mums are unwell themselves, because sick mums have sick babies, especially in developing countries. So they had some initial money for that and were overwhelmed, because women were told basically if they went there, their babies would survive. And so World Health Organization, they had already put out, you know, that is the best method of treatment for babies who are born low birth weight or premature in developing countries. It just wasn't being done on the ground as well as it should be. So that then became a little pet project and passion. So I was very lucky that got picked up by a philanthropist in Sydney who funded then ongoing. And
oh my God, that's incredible, Narelle.
Yes. Well, it's not something I feel like I was just in the middle. They were already doing it, and it's not something that's a new concept, but it's something that's well researched, it's tried, it's tested, and it works. It's low cost, it's low resources. And the mums were so empowered to do it because it's something they could do to help their babies. So yeah, I sort of fell in love with it, and I do have to I've got amazing data there. You know, we have babies 700, 800, 900 grams that are surviving without any Western medicine.
Wow.
Just doing Kangaroo Mother Care. You know, it wasn't all beautiful stories like that. You know, obviously there are sad parts to it too, but it gave them hope, and the outcomes were phenomenal. So we ended up setting up in every district, I think it's 31 districts in Tanzania, or regions in Tanzania, champions. So we trained up the local health professionals and put champions everywhere, and they would then teach the local women. So, you know, we have antenatal classes, and when you have a baby, do this. So not just for your low birth weight and premature babies, for all babies, we promoted it. And it did really well. Outcomes were fantastic. So I fell in love with that. So Tanzania has been a big sort of part of my journey. And then coming back, I did a lot of rural and remote work, so lots of Aboriginal communities, central Queensland, that sort of thing. I'd go and do that for a couple of months and then go to Tanzania, and so I did that for a few years.
Wow.
And then thought, in my 30s, I probably need to settle down, and I've always wanted a family, and you know, you could keep going with that lifestyle for a long, long time, but
Absolutely.
I thought, no, it's time to come back and get settled. So I did a bit of fertility nursing, coming to Melbourne, and then moved up to the birth suite at one of the big private hospitals. So I ended up managing that. So we had about 3,000 babies a year, and I absolutely loved it. So I love looking after women in labour and birth, and I also love being able to nurture midwives and, you know, create an environment where they love working, and then that's passed on to the women. So
Absolutely.
yeah, that became my thing until I met a farmer in the middle of nowhere, which is where I currently am.
And so you've had one child with your farmer.
Yeah.
What is your farmer called?
Andy.
Andy.
I think
I have an
Andy's
Andy
a
too.
Yeah.
So you and Andy have one child
Yes.
together.
Yep.
And would you say that your work, you know, everything you did in the lead up to becoming a mother yourself impacted and informed your postpartum experience and your birth and labour, of course?
Absolutely, yeah. I think knowledge is power.
Yeah.
And, you know, with the birth trauma inquiry, and there's a lot of talk at the moment about, you know, women who haven't had positive experiences. On the flip side to that, so many women have had amazing experiences, and I've had the privilege of being at so many births where women have just, like, they're amazing. Women, I'm so in awe of the women and their bodies and what they can cope with. And so I sort of didn't have a worry. I just thought, no, my body can do this.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Because I've heard it can go the other way as well with, like, if you, especially with nurses, if they've seen a lot of traumatic births.
Yeah.
their own births are traumatic.
I guess the other thing is, you know, I have been in a developing country where there's no resources at all. And so I sort of come from it was, you know, we're obviously not doing things as well as we could be here in Australia. That's not questioned. However, we have got the most amazing health professionals. We've got resources. We've got education. I feel safe within that. I'm definitely... we did come to Melbourne, and we will again to have our babies, and that was a choice I made to go back to my old workplace because they're phenomenal. Yeah. So I felt very safe there, and I think you know, if you feel safe, then you do well.
That's half the battle, isn't it? Yeah, definitely. Can we just go back? What did your role as the fertility nurse entail?
So that was a bit of a learning curve. So before that, you know, we get the partiogram, which is what you fill in when women are in labour, and you tick a box, natural conception or was there artificial reproduction. And so I'd never thought anything past just ticking the box, you know, asking them, did you have this naturally? Yep. However, then doing fertility, you sort of understand it's a whole nother world. So, you know, 1 in 6 couples in Australia experience infertility. And we all know as we're getting older, it's only getting more and more because, you know, it's obviously more difficult to have babies as you get older. So that was a big learning curve, but I absolutely fell in love with it. You know, I think every single person that wants a baby deserves the opportunity to be a parent. And so, you know, hopefully doing that job and giving them some compassion and helping them and guiding them along to achieve their goal of becoming parents. And it was the fathers too, they were on that journey as well. So very, very rewarding. So a lot of those women that I saw through the fertility stages I then saw in the birth suite having their babies. Amazing. So that was pretty awesome.
Oh, how amazing.
Yeah, so that's pretty
so
special.
Rewarding.
And then Andy and I have gone through fertility ourselves since then.
Yeah.
So again, that knowledge is power. So that it didn't faze me or daunt me. No, it wasn't daunting for us at all. Probably Andy more because he doesn't have the knowledge. But I say, no, you'll be right. We got this. So it was a really nice part of my career. I think it complements being a midwife as well. You sort of have a bit more compassion and understanding.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so now that we've got this beautiful picture painted of you, what was your own personal birth? So you've got a son?
Yeah, I've got little Albie. So he's nearly 16 months old and we're 16 weeks pregnant again.
Yay,
so due early May. Thank you. We're very excited.
Oh, when in May?
Sorry.
What's your due date in May?
8th of May.
Oh, the 8th, okay.
Oh,
yep.
Sebastian's the 18th of May.
Is he? Good date. Yep. So can we book in for home when?
Absolutely. Oh my God, I would love nothing more than to care for you, Narelle.
No,
Absolutely.
I was super lucky though. Like I just think midwives, we have this thing that, you know, all midwives seem to have terrible births. We always say they get the hamburger with a lot, you know, everything that could go wrong goes wrong. And so I sort of thought, you know, I'm very supportive of women with birth plans and, you know, I went in with no plan. I go with the flow, whatever happens. I had enough, you know, obviously I've got enough education and that I know what I want. And I was surrounded by people who knew me and knew what we wanted. So with Albie, I was induced at term, 40 weeks, and that was a joint decision. But I had the most beautiful birth. So
amazing.
I was quite vocal at the time. It probably didn't sound beautiful. But for me, it was a beautiful birth. There was sort of no time for any pain relief. He was out in 3 hours. And the whole birth suite that I used to work in were fully aware that he was coming and he was out. So
oh my goodness.
I just think how lucky I was surrounded by the most amazing obstetrician, but more importantly, the midwives were phenomenal. So Maddie, who was our midwife, I interviewed her. She was nursing and really wanted to become a midwife. So I actually interviewed her to do her midwifery. And then it comes out a few years later, she was my beautiful midwife. So.
Amazing.
Oh, how beautiful to be full circle and share that experience.
So I had a really good experience and, you know, I don't think I had a Panadol afterwards. So I was very, very lucky with the experience that we had. So fingers crossed we have the same next time. Yeah.
And what about your postpartum?
So obviously I'm 4 hours from Melbourne. We live on a property that's 5,000 acres.
Wow.
So it's pretty big. It's pretty isolated. We have another family live on the farm.
How far is the nearest hospital from you?
45 minutes.
Okay.
For us. That's over a lot of dirt roads and that's in good conditions. Otherwise an hour to the next maternity. So you don't have we stayed in Melbourne, and because we did go to a private hospital in Melbourne, we got the 5 days or 4 days afterwards. Yeah. So, and then we travelled home because, once you go home, we don't have midwives visiting us.
Yeah.
We go into town if we need to see the family health nurse over there. So a little bit different setup. However, the community we've got 200 people in our little town, Morkel, and most of the families are out on farms as well. And I think sometimes, although we're geographically isolated, we have much stronger sense of community out in the country. I talk to my friends here who don't know their neighbours in Melbourne. Whereas we have people dropping off food every day.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So we don't have meal trains or anything like that, but it's just people are so excited that there's a new baby in town. And so...
Oh, how gorgeous. So, it sounds like there's a very strong sense of community.
Yeah, so I'd never sort of felt isolated or... we don't have mothers groups, and that was a bit more of a challenge. There was huge floods last year, so we were cut off quite a lot. So for me to get to mothers group was a 4-hour round trip. And there were only 3 of us in the group.
Oh,
so,
wow.
I didn't have those things, but I'd never felt like I missed out because I've got great friends and great community, and I sort of had enough support that I needed. So definitely if you speak to women in the rural communities and, definitely on the farms near me, postnatal depression is definitely a thing. And I think that is exacerbated by the isolation.
Yeah.
However, I'm pretty good at just getting in the car and going. So, and Albie's first car ride was 4 hours home. So he's so used to the car that we just jump in the car. So we've had a great time. When Andy's busy on the farm, we'll just jump on a plane and go visit friends in Queensland or Perth, or we'll drive to Gippsland to our families. So
how long is the drive to Gippsland?
6 hours.
6
yeah,
hours.
But
My
we're so used to it.
Cope with a 6-hour drive.
Yeah, it's all he's known, so don't tell him it's not normal. But we're just used to that. So I think that definitely helps. I'm not someone that can sit at home and not have company for a long time. So I just get up and go when Andy's sort of busy. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, I was going to say, how was that? Were you a very sort of social person when you were not living on the farm? Like, how did you adjust to that? And then having a child, thinking...
I felt like I've done my adjusting moving to the farm. So I think that's why having a baby for me probably wasn't.
Yeah.
But in saying that, I moved up a couple of weeks before COVID hit. So life in Melbourne would have been different to what I had anyway before that. So I think, definitely there was isolation, but I think the whole of Australia was feeling it at that stage anyway. And we were how lucky are we? I was across the border in New South Wales. We didn't have the restrictions of what you guys did. I was actually working at that stage a hospital across the border. So I used to travel about an hour and 15 minutes to get to work, but we had to do the border crossings with the police every day.
Yes.
So I used to go into Victoria and you'd see all the playgrounds, they were all taped up and no one was in sight. And then you'd go across to New South Wales and the skate parks full.
So ridiculous. Oh my God, don't even start me on all of that.
So anyway. I don't sort of feel like we, it was a challenge, but the way the world was, we just were like, how lucky are we? Andy's life didn't change at all as a farmer. He just carried on.
Yeah.
So
my husband was a bit the same because he was in construction. So like aside from a few additional things that they had to do, he just went up and went to work every day.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah. And Andy, farmers they're sitting in their tractors and they're doing their thing. So, and they still were talking to everyone. So, our life, and I was still lucky enough to be able to go to work every day. So, yeah.
Did you plan anything for your postpartum, Narelle, or was it just, again, something kind of you approached it the same way as you went into your birth?
Like, did you fill the freezer or anything like that? Did you have meals in the freezer?
So, well, just because of necessity, now. So I used to just have cheese and wine in my fridge in Melbourne. That was it. You go to the IJ or whatever if you need it for dinner. However, living very far away from a supermarket or shop, you have to get a bit more prepared. So I had already sort of started. We've got freezers full up there, and then I'm a big meal planner now. So I never used to be. But no, yeah, definitely we had a lot in the freezer. So that helped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think you'll do anything different for this postpartum?
Not really, because I had such a
Apart
great
from stay at home.
experience. Yeah. Well, do you know what? Even when we were home and we had lots of people come and visit, but
I mean, our home.
Obviously, your home.
That's going to
Come and stay at, yeah.
You know, I just loved it. You know, Albie was a winter baby. He was born start of August, and we had the wooden fire going the whole time. And so I just, you know, I had no expectations, and we had a really beautiful breastfeeding journey that for me it worked really, really well. And so I just spent hours in front of the fire feeding this baby.
Amazing.
Oh. Yeah, and I don't know whether that's country or I'm not sort of influenced by social media, or I just sort of had no expectations that this is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think was Andy able to take time? I mean, I don't know what a farmer's life looks like, but I imagine there's really busy periods and not as busy periods. But even when he's not busy, he probably still has to work every day.
Yeah.
Was he able to be around and help you?
Absolutely, yeah. So winter's our quiet time, which is very handy that we're having our babies in winter.
Yeah.
So he was around. I mean, obviously, he still has to go do jobs, but he was around a lot. This time of year, he's not around. There's harvesting, so they're super busy, and we just don't see him. But during those months, so in May when we have this next baby, it's a super busy time on the farm. So Albie and I will come down to Melbourne and sit here for a couple of weeks, and we'll have our baby here again, because my biggest fear is having it on the side of the dirt road, and there's no one coming past very often. So, and then Andy will just come and go, and that's just how you have to do it. There are you can have your babies up there. There's some beautiful GP obstetricians, and that is definitely an option for us to have a baby up there. However, if Andy's busy on the farm, there's a lot of black spots that I can't get hold of him. So, and we know Albie came quickly. So,
oh, really?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. So we'll come down to Melbourne and have our next baby, and Andy will just hopefully
make it.
Yeah.
You just said harvesting. I just assumed for some reason, when I hear farm and that size, I imagine cattle. But does he grow veggies?
We've got about 3,000 sheep, so there's a lot of sheep. But then cropping's the big thing.
Okay, so
I didn't know anything about farming until I met a farmer. So
is it wheat?
Yeah, so
wheat,
barley, canola,
amazing,
beans. Yeah, so this is a big time of the year.
Beans.
Yeah,
oh, these are my foods.
Yeah,
yum.
Yeah. It's a big learning curve still, this farming world, but when you live on it, you have to learn about it at the same time.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, I keep busy so I don't have to work too much on the farm. If I'm around too much, it gives me jobs. So I keep myself very busy.
Oh my goodness. You've supported friends as well through their births and postpartum?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. And there's quite a few babies up in our local communities that we've delivered, so it's quite cool to see them running around. So that's awesome. I do try, I'm very conscious as a midwife, you know, I never want to come across as judgmental, so I probably hold back a little bit with a lot of people, because I think people come and ask if they have questions, that a lot of people do. But I'm not an opinionated midwife. I think, you know, fed is best. If you want to breastfeed, formula feed, you know, it's all up to you. But definitely supported it, and it's been beautiful to be there. Had a lot of births that's of people that I'm good friends with, and it's pretty special to be part of that stage of their life.
Yeah, it would be, I imagine, definitely. Thank you, Narelle, so much. That was a beautiful story. Next time we're going to talk to you about your work as a midwife in a bit more detail.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This podcast represents the opinions of our hosts and their guest speakers. Views and opinions expressed in the podcast are our own and do not represent that of our places of work. This podcast is for informational purposes only, and content here should not be taken as medical or professional advice. Please consult your healthcare professional for any personal recommendations and medical care. While we make every effort to ensure that the information we are sharing is accurate based on the best available information at the time of recording, we welcome any comments, suggestions or feedback via our website contact form, home.com.au/contact. Names and details of personal experiences may have been changed to allow for anonymity and privacy. To join the conversation, join us on social media at Home Postpartum.